Hello, welcome to the swamp. We're going to be putting a clutch in this Farmall H today, and I hadn't seen any real good videos on how to do it, and information's been pretty sketchy. They claim that you can do this without splitting the tractor, so we're going to find out. I've already got a few things ready for you. I'm going to go ahead and walk through what we've got. So first thing you're going to do is you've got your clutch lever. Comes up here like this. It's just held in with a simple pin, cotter pin. Now, one thing I want to make note of, this one still original, still got the right pin in it. When you go in tear into your tractor, you might have one that somebody's replaced it with a bolt, or it might be bad bore. Don't get the cutting torch out right off the bat. Just go ahead, work with it a little bit, it will come out. Now, you've got two bolts, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute, in here that clamp this shaft to the throwout bearing. Let me see if you can see that right here where I've got my light. So there was a bolt here and a bolt here. They're both 9/16. So I was able to go through, get those loose, sprayed it down a little bit, went and got a glass of tea, come back. It's pretty loose right now. So when you get ready to tap that out, one of the things that you're going to have to remember, this one has a grease fitting on it. Right, I'm going to be replacing these grease fittings, so I'm not worried about them. Now, if you are not going to be replacing a grease fitting, or you don't have one, make sure that you use soft brass, wood, something like that. I've got an old shaft here that I'm going to just slip over this, and I'm going to tap it out. I'm going to hand the phone back to mine. Hey, who took my hammer? Now, as you can see, there are a couple of woodruff keys that are still inside that other shaft in there. I'll have to take those out and get those back in this in a minute. All right, now, the jack shaft that runs back to the transmission. Let's talk about it a little bit. So you can see I've already taken the coupling loose right here. And I'm going to show you some detailed pictures of that. When you take this loose, these bolts are an assembly. You've got a washer here by the head. You see the bolt itself is tapered. You've got this rubber washer. Now this rubber washer goes right here between the coupling. When you bolt this up, it'll be right here. Do not lose that rubber coupling. Okay. This right here is going to help things stay in alignment. It's going to help it run quiet. Make sure that you keep up with that, and make sure you keep this assembly just how it came out. Okay. And I'll show you a few more pictures of that. Now, once we get all that loose, you're going to take your clutch out. All right, so you've got these bolts holding the clutch in here, here, and then you see this hole here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take every other one of these bolts out, then thread it in here. I'll show you later. When you tighten that down, that's going to pull the clutch spring in, make it release. It's going to make it be able to come out, so it'll give you a lot more room to work. All right. Alright, so I just want to show you now, I've got it all out. I'm going to go through the assembly a little bit. So this is what it would look like if everything was assembled still in the tractor. You'd be looking up in there, you'd see this plate. Then you have your actual clutch plate and you get your throwout bearing here on the end. Okay. So this is your pressure plate. this is my problem. I've got a broken spring, and clutch plate itself is wore completely out. All right. So this is the part I was talking about earlier, where you knocked the shaft out of it. Actually, I thought it had a couple of Woodruff keys in it because of how keyways were shaped. They're not Woodruff keys, they're actually washers that was on these bolts. I didn't realize that till after it came completely out. So when you go to take yours out, just make sure, pull these bolts out, go ahead and pull those washers out, make it a lot easier to go ahead and take it off. This part right here, you've got 2 bolts, I'll show you in some pictures, holds it to the case of the tractor. You get those out, and then here's your coupling that was at the back of the transmission. All right. So it's a 2-piece coupling here. Come on in. So you've got 2 bolts here, the 2 closest to the shaft. They're just standard bolts. All right. They bolted up tight. So you got 2 of those, and then you've also got the 2 bolts that I talked about earlier. You got a big washer on this side, and you got a rubber washer in the middle, nut on the far side. Make sure that you always get this rubber washer back in the center of this coupling. If you don't, you're going to have major issues. It's going to be noisy, it's not going to run true, you're going to tear up a lot of things, okay? So always make sure you get that back in. Now, one of the things that I had to do getting this clutch out, you've got 6 bolts holding pressure plate to the flywheel. So you take every other one out, 1, 2, 3, take them out, and then you screw them back in here. Let me go ahead, I think I've still got a socket set up here. We'll go ahead and we'll take one of these out real quick just to show you. So you'll actually see as I let this off, if the camera catches it, you'll actually see as I let this off. You see that spring letting out? So what we're actually doing is we're compressing these springs in here. That gives you more room to get the clutch out. There's a threaded hole down inside there. Make sure you get your bolt started in it. Don't cross thread it. All right. Always be a little careful with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and run that back down because I've got everything else under pressure and I don't want to warp this plate while I've got it off. So the other list I wanted to go through while I've got you here is a list of tools. So we've got a 1/2-inch socket. You're gonna need a long extension, 3/8 drive ratchet. We've also got a 9/16 socket here. 5/8 wrench, you'll need that. You're also gonna need a 5/8 socket. You're also gonna need a 3/8 Allen head socket or a 3/8 Allen wrench. The reason for that is this coupling here. All right. You're also gonna need a 3/4 inch wrench, which I didn't bring over to the table. You're gonna need your hammer or precision acceleration device. You're gonna need a long brass rod, wooden rod, something like that to knock this shaft out. Now remember I said earlier, I'm not reusing these grease zerks, I will be replacing them. So I wasn't worried about damaging that. If you are going to be reusing these, you plan on reusing them, go ahead, take yours out and make sure you do not damage the shaft so you don't have any trouble putting it back in. So that's about it. Things come out pretty easy. Always make sure when you're working on these old tractors, make sure you keep your Levi Garrett, your cigars, whatever you need handy. Don't let these tractors make you mad. They've been around for 70 years. They ain't gonna want to come apart.